Thank you, and welcome to the retrospective exhibition of the master Gobardhan Ash. Thank you all for coming. Um, this is a retrospective that focuses on the important years of 1929 to 69. 29 was the year he met Jamini Roy. 1969 was a year where the artist was unfortunately suffering. I mean, the family was in great poverty. And in between, we have 40 years of being a creative genius, whether it be academic style landscapes, modernist portraits created in the 30s and 40s. My personal favorite, of course, is the Avatar series, which is that series out there. It's a name that we gave from the NFT profile picture project craze that happened a couple of years ago in the digital space, with the goal to point out that Gobardhan had already made caricatures of personalities and characteristics in the 40s, 1940s, versus the NFT name which came in the 2020s. Gobardhan was a rebel. I mean, he's known as a rebel. He went against Mukul Dey at the Government Art College. Mukul Dey at that time was, of course, a protege of Rabindranath Tagore, a very powerful person, and formed his own school, the Art Rebel Centre. Some people consider this Art Rebel Centre to be a path from where modernism begins. What's interesting, and I hope you like in the exhibition, is that a lot of the catalog images, the images from the physical catalog are there on the walls. So please do take a look at the archival information that we have put together. This is what makes exhibiting Gobardhan very tough, as documenting creativity is not easy at all. We cannot underscore the importance of some of these works. Some of these works you see on the walls here were in fact part of the joint exhibition between the Bombay Progressives and the Calcutta Group in the 1950s, a piece of history that has almost been forgotten. And they're right there, the catalog, the artworks, everything. The exhibition, I feel, will be a landmark, and I'll close in like 10 seconds. The exhibition will be a landmark due to all the reasons above, and I hope we have been able to highlight his creativity and mastery. But there's one more reason why I think it's an important exhibition. And this is something I'm very excited about, and that is we welcome the state of the art technology into art. If you have seen the last section, we have deep learned Gobardhan Ash's Avatar series, and now we have an AI engine reproducing new works, not copies, but new works in the style of Gobardhan Ash, having learned from his paintings. This is the state of the art and is the future. We don't know what we're going to do with this. It's just technology demonstrator as of now, but it is something, this is the tipping point in art, at least in digital art. I know there's a lot to assimilate here. There's a lot of narration, a lot of discussion. We are all available for questions during the exhibition and afterwards. With this, I hand it back to Brijeshwari. Thank you.
Thank you, Indrajit. May I request Mr. Nirban Ash, we're really delighted to have you here with us today, and thank you for all your contributions throughout the documentation process as well. May I please request you to say a few words?
Good evening, everyone. I extend my greetings to all guests, art lovers, artists, and art connoisseurs. A big thanks and welcome to our esteemed guest, Mrs. Richa Agarwal, Chairperson KCC, Mrs. Ina Puri, eminent artist, patron, curator, and to Brijeshwari, Gohil, art historian. All your presence, I think, adds immense honor to this event. I would like to express my gratitude to the organization team Prinseps and to their director, Mr. Indrajit Chatterjee, as well as curator Brijeshwari Gohil, and their tireless efforts made this event possible, and their esteemed dedication to the art is really, truly commendable. In this delightful evening, we are assembled to celebrate the exhibition of renowned artist Gobardhan Ash created his exhibition. All the paintings done during 4 decades, 1929 to 1969. Gobardhan Ash worked 70 years on the art line. He came to Calcutta or entered Government Art College. Then it was school, Government Art School, 1926. That means 98 years ago. He studied there 5 years and then he went away. After 5 years, he went away to Madras Government Art School, Calcutta. But dissatisfying their method of teaching, he returned to Calcutta. In Calcutta, his rebellion spirit led him to form a group, Young Artist Union and Art Center, Calcutta, 1931 and 1932. He became the esteemed member, Calcutta group, and his art, his ism, keep permanent mark and influence the whole Indian art. He was member of Calcutta prestigious art gallery, Academy of Fine Arts, founder member. And after 1969, here today, you will see the paintings. But after 69, Gobardhan Ash lived more than 27 years and he worked huge work. I think then the last 27 years, his work extend the boundaries of modern and contemporary art. Today, I will not elaborate it further. In conclusion, we enjoy the depth and his creation, passion and dedication. once again, I extend my heart to all visitors and let us we enjoy and see the exhibition. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I hope you stay on for the rest of the conversation, and please feel free to add your inputs as well. So again, once again, a very good evening to everybody. We are going to start the panel, and I don't think I really need to introduce any of the people here. They're all familiar faces. We have Ms. Ina Puri. Thank you for coming and flying down from Delhi for this panel discussion. Ms. Richa Agarwal, as well as Mr. Indrajit Chatterjee. Without taking much time, I think I'm gonna start the conversation. Yeah. So let's first sort of, Indrajit, this one's for you to begin, because I think this entire exhibition has come through because of your passion for Bengal School as well as your tireless effort to document Gobardhan Ash. So can you tell us a little bit about why Gobardhan Ash and what it took to document this entire estate?
Well, one thing led to another. We have exhibited Atul Bose quite a few years ago, who was very close to Gobardhan and his mentor. So when I got a call from Nirban, I was, needless to say, very curious, and it needed quite a few trips to Begampur, but I started looking at the artworks. I was like, wow, this is works that haven't been documented. These are works that are masterly. There are various series. And I took it upon as a challenge. And this is almost like a 2.5 or 3 years worth of study and research and irritating Nirbanda like 20 times a day, and going through all the books, old archival material, and that's how it began.
Thank you. Which brings me to actually having this exhibition at KCC. We've been working on, the documentation and stuff for so long, but there was a very clear idea that we have to have this exhibition in Calcutta. And I think the best and most appropriate place for that would be the KCC. So can you tell us a little bit about your vision for KCC, and also thank you for actually hosting this exhibition and giving us the opportunity to have over 100 works of Gobardhan Ash in Calcutta. I think it's a lot like a homecoming, even though it's not exactly.
Thank you for that. A very warm welcome to all of you at KCC, and congratulations Indrajit and team Prinseps for hosting this wonderful retrospective of Govardhan Ash over here with us. It was very exciting for me to want to have this show here, because Govardhan Ash was one of the first few modernist artists whom I had personally collected almost, I think, about 22 years back. So it was a homecoming of sorts for me, because it was interesting how someone so senior could create something so magical. Really without too much of authority on his art or his practice. I just knew that we needed to do this show in Calcutta, and if KCC could be a part of it in any way, most welcome. I don't know if Indrajit remembers, but one of the first few conversations when we were making the center, we were having at the cafe upstairs, and he asked me, why have you even made a center like this? While I'd love to take the credit for making the center, it's actually my parents-in-law who have made it, nurtured it, taught me how to work here and work at the best of our ability. And when we were discussing, we said, time and again, we've been speaking about how Bengal is, and Shantiniketan, Kolkata is where art has it's all started right here. It was very natural that, you want a lot of it to remain here. Unfortunately, at, again, multiple conversations which we were having around the country and across borders also, people kept saying that now, not much is happening in Bengal, so it's okay, it used to be like how it was the capital at one time. It was the art capital, but things have moved on. And, for someone who is from here and as family, we very strongly believe that we are because of Bengal. So it was very, it was that weak moment, if I may say, when we decided that we need to create something like this in Kolkata, just to do our own little bit to be relevant, to be a part of the art and cultural community, which is actually in all of our DNAs, whether we like it or not. I think it's in the water here. But that said, so this was some of the conversations which we were having, I think, on day 2 of opening of the center, 22nd November, we were having tea together, and he was like, why are you doing this here? So I think this was the conversation which started then. We've been in touch on and off, and I think even this particular project was at our desk this for almost 6-7 months, and I was like, I can't, that situation when you want to hold on to something and you're not able to let go of it. So I think with all the pull and push and all of it, we managed to bring it to Kolkata. So I'd urge all of y'all to really spread the word around so that people come and see. It's important for us to able to appreciate what we've had, its legacy. We have all learned, whether we like it or not, from a legacy which has taken us and brought us where we are. So do share the word around. But that said, KCC believes very strongly that um, art is actually a way of life. It's not just what we believe in seeing, on the walls, and it's so everything that we do talks about it some way or the other, and that's how our programming is.
No, that's wonderful to hear and so exciting, I think, for everybody, especially who's based out of Calcutta. And we keep talking about, the Bengal school being sort of forgotten, or not so much as forgotten, but maybe not given the due recognition and importance. And it's more about, the Calcutta group fading and the Bombay progressives really coming onto the forefront where Indian art history is concerned. My question to you, Ms. Ina Puri, is why do you think that is the case? Why do you feel like we've somehow lost this particular thread with the Calcutta group, despite the 1910s to the 1950s being such a melting pot for art movements here?
First of all, I do not agree. I think we have never lost the thread. Calcutta will and continue to lead the way. It always has, it always will. I'm extremely proud to be here this afternoon. Thank you very much, Indrajit, for inviting me, and Richa, of course, who just picks up the phone and says, Inadi, this is happening, we need you in Calcutta. And I'm on the next flight here. Importantly, I agreed also because the first question I asked is, where is the collection coming from? Increasingly, in recent times, fake art has become a huge problem. And this was something that I needed to guard against, and I did not want to participate in any project where I didn't know about the provenance. Therefore, the first thing that I asked Indrajit, and he said that the family is involved. And I said, in that case, no questions asked. So it's wonderful to be here with the family and original artworks around. Yippee! Having said that, I think Calcutta is, in fact, doing things so differently. At Birla Academy, there is an exhibition of Ganesh Halois. We have Gobardhan Ash here, followed by K.G. Subramanian's exhibition. So, this is the way forward. Institutions have to have their own archives. They need to build a collection, and that has to be an important part of the whole process. Coming back to your question, which I didn't quite agree with, yes, briefly, maybe, there was a lot of attention. There are brilliant artists. When we are talking about the progressives, they have done such incredible work, and they are a brilliant group, no two ways about that. But here, coming to a parallel a path of, the artists that we had here, like, say, for instance, at that time we had so many outstanding artists like Bikash Babu, like Jogen Babu, like Ganesh Pine, and so many, many others. Alongside Gobardhan Ash, we had people like, for instance, he had a very long life, and that covered a span when he was able to work with people like Oboni Shein on the one hand, with whom he was friends and partners, and from then Zainul Abidin and so many other people. So this is a life that touched a lot of other lives. Yes, he started the Rebel Art Movement Center, but within him, I think there was a restlessness. There was an urge to experiment, to look around, to go elsewhere. He wasn't content to sit in one place, no matter how successful he was. He was keen to experiment, explore, and move forward. And that is something that I think is remarkable about Govardhan Babu.
Thank you. I want to ask you a follow-up question actually to that, because you spoke about restlessness and the sort of drive or inspiration, I guess, which led to him being called a rebel artist or forming these centers and various movements and groups. Do you believe that somehow this has kind of moved or has been influenced when we talk about contemporary artists as well, and we look at the same sort of restlessness within their artworks as well?
I think restlessness is a part of the artist's DNA, whether he's a filmmaker, whether he's a poet, a writer, or a visual artist, an installation maker. So yes, restlessness has to be a part of one's DNA. Otherwise, how can you produce? If you're content to make a few drawings or paintings that sell and you're happy with that, then I don't know if that works.
Very true. Actually, talking about contemporary, it really, Indrajit, I'm going to put you on a spot for this, because you spoke about the deep dive sort of section that we've done there in terms of the deep art. And can you tell us a little bit about how Prinseps has sort of put together the NFT part a few years ago with Gobardhan Ash's works, as well as the Avatar series, as AI has kind of taken it to another platform, I would say. And where does this sort of stand when we talk about provenance and when we talk about building on art history?
Yeah, so the NFTs happened when I realized that there's this whole talk about avatars, which is basically portraits that depict a characteristic or a personality. And at that time I was talking to Nirban, and I was very familiar with the Gobardhan Ash estate. And I thought we're talking about avatars as a new form of art in 2020, whereas this has already been done in 1948. So how come we are not bringing this out in front of people? And that's how that began. That has subsequently led to this AI project where, my fascination with the whole Avatar series, I decided, let's see if we can train an AI engine. And it's been a lot of work. It's been 3 months of, almost 24/7 work, programming, machines, servers, GPUs, to finally be able to produce a result that we got almost like a few days before the exhibition. And I don't know where we're going with this, but I'm happy to experiment with the art of the master experimenter himself. I guess that's how I look at it.
Just to come in over there, Indrajit, what I think is remarkable about this exhibition is the fact that you've chosen, an auction house. Basically what you see them do is you see them auction the works, but to come to the city and to exhibit and to kind of let people come in and see the works, that is an important
we
thing to
have
do.
figured out that we are more of research than auctions, and therefore we are Prinseps research at this point.
Collaboration is very important.
Yes,
absolutely.
Absolutely. I think I'll add a little bit about Princeps to that, because what we focused on so far in terms of exhibitions, this is probably the third proper exhibition that we've done besides, India art fairs and smaller spaces like that we've taken on, is to have exhibitions where we have clear provenance. So we had the Bhanuathaya estate where we had 2 exhibitions, and now it's Gobardhan Ash. So one is clear provenance. The second is actually bringing to the forefront artists who didn't get their due, or who we felt needed the spotlight at that particular time. And I think when we talk about artists such as Gobardhan Ash, personally as well as I think a research house, we felt that Gobardhan Ash was not being spoken about or had not been documented enough. There are a lot of artists, especially when we look at the modernists or the contemporaries especially, that have been documented n number of times, have been written about n number of times, and that is something that we wanted to really highlight and change, if I'm correct.
I remember a time I had actually curated the retrospective of Oboni Shen. And that had happened because Oboni Shen was Manjit Bawa's, he was his guru. And so therefore, Manjit was very keen when Manjit was taken unwell in the year 2005. After that, I had been invited by the family, kind of like a tribute to even Manjit, to do an exhibition, a retrospective of Oboni Shen's. And we were able to do it at Triveni. But the paintings all came from the family, and it was incredible because he also didn't sell. And there were stacks of works that one had to make a selection from. And of course, one was looking at a catalog, some kind of publication. It's so important to be able to focus on artists who have not been given their due.
Absolutely, which actually brings me to you and to really understand what does patronage in today's day and age entail, and where do you stand when it comes to really having exhibitions at KCC? What is your vision, and what is how do you sort of see KCC growing into this melting pot?
I think patronage is a very relevant term, if I may. We had been discussing time and again at home about art and what we can really do, what we want to do. There was a time when we were buying a lot of art. So people thought that, it would be very interesting to have us on different panels or multiple places, or have the Imami name on different boards. But then, as again, over multiple conversations, what we realized was we really stood for belonging to the city and wanting to bring the best of everywhere else into the city. That's at least what we try to do. Success markers is something what you all would tell us what we've achieved. But we realized that it was very important to create first a space that was relevant for today's generation. Again, a little more interactive space if it was possible. Over the years, while collecting art is as important to us as family, but also talking about art and promoting art comes with its own merits, and that's what all of us really enjoyed. When we are doing shows at Imami Art or KCC, we try to see how well it resonates with our board, with our advisory board, and also so that the ethos of the system doesn't get diluted, because trust you me, the kind of projects which come very often are not the ones you want to say no to, but you have to sometimes in the larger interest. I think patronage is a lot about also wanting to make decisions which kind of resonate in the long run. Earlier, traditionally, I think a lot before independence, it was the kings and the nobles and all of them who were very clear that they needed to promote the art and culture of one particular region. And in today's age and time, it's genuinely people like you and me who are interested in art, who want to do something in our own little way, because I think collectively we can do a lot more than trying to do things in silos. So that's been a very interesting journey for me. Also, continuously talking about creating a ripple effect. So you kind of start small, and then you grow your circle a little larger over a period of time. And that's what I believe all of us keep doing as friends of KCC. So patronage is very relevant. I think all of us who are here for a reason. So in a sense, we are all patrons of art.
Also, the way we took the Shahidul exhibition that we did earlier this last year. Shahidul Alam, of course, is a very well-known Bangladeshi photographer, and I had curated that exhibition. And it ran at KCC Kolkata to full house almost, I think, over 2 months. And then the exhibition was invited to Kochi for the Biennale. So, so Imami went, yes, Ahmedabad, Kochi, and now Bombay. So the whole purpose of doing any exhibition, I think even this show, is that more people get to see it. There's no point doing anything. Having a collection and keeping it locked away doesn't make sense.
Can I bother you with a question on modern versus contemporary? I mean, obviously, this is a showing from 1929 to 69. I know you have an interest in contemporary art. I'm just wanting to get some more of your thoughts on that, if you may. Your thoughts on contemporary art and how we should promote it.
Well, I have been collecting from the early 80s, and the entire collection is still with me. I was basically, I think I was out of university when I started collecting, and I still collect. I began with K.G. Subramanian's glass paintings, and I still have them, which I don't think I had paid much money for. It was in those days not that costly. And of course, Nandan Mela. So it began there, but I continue to collect, and my recent purchases have been Hazarina Hashmi or Ranbir Kaleka. I have some wonderful works of Manjeet Bawa's. The thing is that the contemporary art scene today is hugely exciting, and people are producing incredible work. If we look at, say, Abaran Ijlal, if we look at the kind of work that even Subodh is doing, Subodh Gupta or Sudarshan Shetty, artists from here, Arindam Chatterjee is showing right here in this space. Meet Hussain, of course, is another very favorite artist of mine. There are people working from one corner of the country to another, and we are showing everywhere. I was in Dubai recently, and Gauri Gill's curation that she was showing there. So I just think today the world is kind of receiving Indian art and artists like it has never done before. Our Indian art fairs, the Mumbai art fairs, I think it's looking so promising.
Absolutely. I was actually, speaking of Gauri Gill, I was pleasantly impressed and surprised to see that she's got her works at the V&A, the new photo gallery as well. So you're absolutely right when you're talking about the contemporary space really being the sort of growing hotspot, I guess. But where does collecting contemporary art come into this? Who do you sort of believe, because those are the contemporary patrons then, right? The patrons of today when it comes to actually the collectors of today. Where do you feel that sort of stands? What are we looking at in terms of who is the buyer, who is buying these works? I mean, I know you are, but
we will never know, because the face of the Indian collector is sadly only a few. You see them at galleries, you see them, at museums and at art fairs and important events. But there are so many people, so many young people buying, and there have been collectors, for instance, in Kolkata. Shatul Gupta has been collecting art in another time, in another era. He wasn't at that point of time so written about. Today's collector also is, he or she is known to be a collector, and therefore given huge importance, as it should be. But my feeling is that there are so many people buying art, and this you get to see in the India Art Fair especially. Young people can just walk in, and I'm delighted when I see a lot of tribal artists also now participating in the Indian Art Fair. And there are takers for different genres of art. That is very important for photography, for art, of course, for sculpture. That's a healthy sign, isn't it?
Well, a question for Richa. I hope, would you say, we were sitting very early on and I was asking you, why are you doing this? I'm sure you meant it in a positive way that I was asking you the question, not in a negative way, that why are you doing this?
I think that is a question which we heard a lot. Why has this family started talking about promoting art? So, I mean, I was actually enjoying it. So, absolutely, no, I love to answer that question at every given opportunity.
And one more question I have for anybody, actually. It's a pet peeve that I have. I sometimes feel the word or the cliche Bengal school has possibly hurt art from Bengal a bit because it is very confusing. Bengal school refers to Abanindranath Tagore and his disciples, whereas a lot of people try to just brush everything underneath that one nomenclature. And I think that Bengal school was 1910s to 1930s, 40s, 50s maybe, but Bengal art is so rich. Gobardhan Ash was never a part of Bengal school. Jamni Roy was never part of Bengal school. Vikas was not part of Bengal. But people just confuse Bengali artist and Bengal school. I'm just wondering if there's any comments on.
Tapati Guha Thakurta and I were just having a conversation a while before we started, and she was talking about the Bengal modern. And yeah, I think that people need to study a little more, perhaps. When you're collecting, it's nice to know a little bit more. I tend to agree with you because there is a confusion about Bengal school. What is the Bengal school, all about? But increasingly, there are opportunities. There are art historians and scholars. They are, kind of. We see that in Delhi. We see it in Kolkata. Certainly, they're, open to having lectures and engaging with people. And that exchange has to happen. People have to be made aware.
And not to put Richa under the spot, but the last major patron of arts prior to her was Lady Ranu Mukherjee. So there's a lot of shoe to fill, and we're looking forward to a lot more programs and a lot more exhibitions.
In fact, Gobardhan Ash's exhibition that he did was for Lady Ranu Mukherjee at Academy of Fine Arts, where we had Manjeet's exhibition, incidentally.
I think you've put in front of me very, very large shoes. I think all of us at KCC and all the friends of KCC, we can just hope to fulfill like a fraction of that shoe with all the work that we want to do and keep doing together. So, but thank you for the compliment. I very humbly take that.
I think before we sort of wrap up for questions, I have one sort of question for both of you that, I think you'll have both gone through the exhibition. So I'm going to put both of you on the spotlight here. And what artwork or art period of Gobardhan Ashes is your favorite and why?
I refuse to get drawn into this. Absolutely. In fact, I'm discovering Gobardhan Ash through your exhibition. I've come to see works that I have never seen before, and it's absolutely remarkable. Like this morning, I went to see Ganesh Das exhibition, Ganesh Halois. Now, I had known about the Ajanta paintings, but I physically saw them for the first time today. So it's a discovery for Gobardhan Ash as well.
I think I resonate the same voice. I'm completely intrigued. In fact, Indrajit was introducing me to a lot of the works and practices and periods. So probably at the end of the show, we'll answer that question.
We'll get back to that one. So we've also, we've got a lot of questions, I hope. But before that, I will just say that we have been working on a sort of catalog raisonné based on these works, as well as a lot of other documentation that has been possible because of Indrajit, Mr. Nirban Ash, Harsharan, who's the co-curator. So we will be launching a soft copy of that particular catalog raisonné and book. But before that, we'll just go on to the questions. If anyone has any questions, and you can just raise your hands. If you can just say who the question is directed to as well.
This would be to the entire panel. I would love to get different opinions on things. Back in 2021, when a DAG did its exhibition on modern art in Bengal, I had the privilege of speaking to Mr. Kishore Singh about it, and he told me that had Bengali modern art been documented as well as other art as art globally has been, Kolkata and Bengal at large, it would have rivaled and been talked about in the same breath as art centers such as Paris, London, and New York. My question is, where does an artist like Gobardhan Ash and other modern artists fit into this belief that Mr. Kishore Singh has?
Does
you.
Mr. Kishore Singh have any kind of a book or publication on Gobardhan Ash?
No, he doesn't.
That answers my question, doesn't it? I mean, in that context, incidentally, I've written in that book on Bengal for Delhi Art Gallery. I wish DAG also would open up. Yes, it's one thing to say that we can equal the world, but it's quite another, and it's also important to have publications and to have a show like this, which in this context, I think Prinseps has.
I'll add to that. Calcutta Group actually has been described in many places as an idea that never even had exhibitions. You'll see this information in books, some of which you mentioned. So hopefully over the period we are able to dispel this.
I hope the panel will excuse me if I don't ask a question and make a comment. Is that okay? Because it's not a specific question as such. So a couple of things that I did want to say, not to go into, of course, there's a lot of very fine-tuned research to be done that will allow us to think about what defines the Bengal School, because sure, it began with Abanindranath, but what we should also recognize is that through the 30s, it becomes the dominant face of modern Indian art across the regions. So the same time that you're having a modernist breakthrough, very famously Rabindranath and the Shantiniketan artists, the so-called predominant face of the national modern is a continuation, and artists dominate the art schools. So what Abanindranath, when he says that Amader, when he says we've conquered the nation, he means that our artists have gone out. Now, obviously artists like Gopal Ghosh, even Brijeshwari, Gobardhan Ash, and many others, are coming out of a different academic tradition, and they break out into a different kind of modernism. So I think there is a lot of research done, but there's more research to be done. And I absolutely agree that to sweep everything under what became a discredited later Bengal School has done a lot of disservice to the art scene. Having said that, my main comments here were something else. I think we need to perhaps distinguish between the patron, who's a figure of a different era, and those who we will call the collector, the curator. Patrons somewhere carries a different overtone. So Ranu Mukherjee was a patron in a way that I wouldn't think of Richa Sharma as a patron in the same way. And one needs to therefore think about historicizing the category. A lot of patrons commissioned work. So this is very different, where the market itself is a more democratized and a very different kind of space. But my main question I wanted to ask is about the celebration of the market, which is of course important for art to thrive. But we must remember that so much of Bengal's modern art of the post-independence years, pre-independence, survived without a market, which is why so many artists, their works remained, like Nirban Babu's Kaj, Gobardhan Asher Kaj, remained with the family. Right up to 2 decades ago, all the work, so much of the work remained with the family. And this is a condition that all of us who live and work on Bengal recognize, that the market here arrived late. And it could be swept off because families were not even aware often of full market value. So I like to here just annotate the fact that before this market arrived, an academic institution like ours, we were not an art collecting institution. We did carry out a documentation project, whether with Atul Babu's collection or Nirban Babu's collection, Shonjit Bose's collection. And I'm very happy to say that from 25 years ago, we did the kind of documentation of family collections which have today entered the market and have got dispersed. I mean, Atul Bose is one instance, Gopal Ghosh is another, Gobardhan Ash. So 24 years ago, our team was at Begumpur documenting it. Now the problem is the art world and a world of research and documentation, which actually have often not been talking to each other so much. And I feel a lot of scholars have used our collection, but we've never really been in conversation so much with collectors and curators, which is where I say it's a loss to both. It's a loss to us. And at the same time, I think the art world also needs to know that similar archiving is done. So I just wanted to flag that very early on, as the market was opening up, we found that there was so much work lying in family collections. We were not in a position to buy. We can't. We were an academic organization. But I do believe that even when you cannot buy, you can produce a document, a catalog, which will serve the cause of art history in a way that the market will not. Just that point. Except in the archival exhibitions we did, where Gobardhan Ash's work featured. There are two exhibitions we did called Visual Worlds of Modern Bengal and City in the Archive. I used a lot of Gobardhan Ash to think of portraiture. How do we think of portraiture in the 40s, 50s, and 60s? And there we used a fair amount of Gobardhan Ash, but nothing dedicated to Gobardhan Ash. So this is a wonderful exhibition. I'd like to congratulate Prinseps and KCC for allowing us to see the original works again, which we saw over 20 years ago in Begumpur.
Can I just add to that? Sorry, I'll just say a few things. Firstly, it's amazing that you've actually looked at the collection and stuff so many years ago. As someone who's worked and studied between the two that you mentioned, the research as well as the art market space, for me, what resonated, and that's why I actually joined Prinseps, was the fact that they marry the two. So personally, I feel that it is amazing as a researcher and an archive house to document someone's collection, be it an artist's family or a collector's entire archive and collection. But I think there is beauty when you open that up or when you create a platform to actually showcase that to a larger audience. Because that's when you're really educating people and bringing them to the forefront and maybe inspiring them to collect and make their own collections. So I think we are really a research house, as Indrajit says, that kind of aims to connect all these dots and not just make it about the market and not just make it about research either. So yeah, just my 2 cents.
Well,
Any?
thank you very much. Thank you, Richa ji, Ina ji, Nirban da, for all thoughts, and thank you all for coming. We're still waiting to do our book release. We'll wait a few more minutes, but please browse the exhibition if you have any questions.
Before we sort of get to the book release, there are a few questions, but I would also like to ask Harsharan Bakshi, who's the co-curator, to say a few words about the documentation and the actual catalog resume. But just a second.
My name is Shopanno. So this question is to Indrajit sir. As you said that Gobardhan Ash's work has been restructured and reformulated by using artificial intelligence. As we all know that artificial intelligence or deep learning is now the watchword. But if I look at it from the artistic point of view, is the imagination or the whole idea of abstract art form getting lost in the process of artificial intelligence?
It's a good question that you're asking. There is a, given the amount an AI engine, given the amount of art an AI engine can produce, you are in competition with the artist who is making the artworks by hand, etc. So it may have a negative effect. As of now, it's still very early days. It's new technology, and as with any new technology, you assimilate it or you are left behind. Whether it has positive or negatives in the future, we are yet to experience that. Hopefully, it will be all positive. I mean, I was having a conversation with somebody, I mean, much older to you guys. They were talking about computers not being allowed in banks and post offices, and look at it now. It's part and parcel of everyday businesses. So will AI help? I hope it helps more than anything else. It's still early days. This is a vanguard exhibition because of what we have been able to achieve, a deep learned an artist. How it gets used commercially or not is unclear at this point. It is a tech demonstrator. We don't know where this goes. But with any new technology, you want to be with it and not behind it. That's my take on it.
Hi, I'm Harsharan Bakshi. So, the research on Gobardhan Ash and his works took almost 2 years. And while I was documenting his works and looking at them, I just realized the creative diversity of his works and how each decade, starting from the late 1920s till 1969, it signified a new creative phase. And what we also wanted to do was to highlight the dedication of each creative phase. So you see landscapes, which are like around 10 to 12 of them. He did a lot more, but I had to narrow it down. And then he did portraits, and he used to make self-portraits every single day, starting from the age of 27 until the age of 89. So he practically worked and worked, and that is what we try to show through this exhibition, which has over 100 artworks. Thank you.